It's time for the Onyx News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Onyx News Podcast, Margie K.
Good evening and welcome to Onyx News. I'm your host, Margie K, and we are here every Friday evening. Please make a note that the next show, which is going to be on April the 3rd, is a 2-hour format. We're going to take live callers, and we've got weird news at the top of the hour. Then we'll have a good guest on, and at the end of the hour, I will take calls for remote viewing readings. So the other thing is we're starting 1 hour earlier, so 5 Central, 6 Eastern time is what is going to happen with that. And then, of course, tomorrow is UFO Audit, and it is a free UFO conference with some fantastic speakers, as you can see there. Micah Hanks, Chiago Tichetti, John Burroughs, and David Marler with MC Race Hobbs. That is tomorrow starting at noon Eastern time. So you've got to register in advance. Go to theunexplainednetwork.com for a link at the top, and you can register for this free event. So hope to see you there tomorrow. But tonight, we are speaking again with Dr. Raymond Keller. I had him on a few months ago. He's a fascinating person and a prolific writer. Dr. Keller is a retired history professor who has lived and worked in 44 different countries and has been writing about UFOs and paranormal activity since 1967. He received his doctoral degree from West Virginia University in 2011, focusing on various aspects of the Basque settlement of Venezuela, and his master's degree from the same university, majoring in foreign language with an emphasis on magic realism in Latin American literature. His first book, Venus Rising, details the interaction over millennia of varied intelligences from the planet Venus with the inhabitants of Earth. He was a member of APRO with Dr. Leo Sprinkle, who wrote the introduction to that book. The second book, Rockets to Venus, explores the origins of the atomic and space ages and the rush by sundry nations to send probes to our sister planet and garner information about the advanced civilizations that exist there beneath the dense cloud layers. His third book, Cosmic Rays, Excellent Venus Adventure, continued with contemporary and personal accounts of Venusians clandestinely carrying out their missions of peace here on our planet. But this evening, we're going to discuss Dr. Keller's latest book, Autobiography of a Venusian. Welcome to the program, Dr. Keller.
Thank you.
There we go. Sorry about that. Bill and I were fighting. Bill's in the background, and I'm used to doing that myself, so I have to learn to let him control that. How have you been since we last spoke?
I've been fine, and my calendar is filling up. I'm very excited to be part of the Onyx network and to be on this program with you and share this valuable information about our sister planet, Venus, and the other inhabited worlds of our immense omniverse.
Very well said. Of course, we know there are inhabitants on Venus. There's been a lot of coverage since the 1930s, really, about that. A lot of people have had contact with Venusians over time. But let's just start out with, how did you get interested in ufology?
Well, thank you, Margie. It all began back in the in the mid 1960s. I had an encounter with a unidentified flying object over a railroad trestle in Walton Hills, Ohio, coming back from a Boy Scout camp out, and I was so excited about it, and I contacted the Cleveland Plain dealer to find out who I should talk to about UFOs, and they put me in contact with Earl J. Neff, who was the director of the Cleveland Ufology Project, and he was the former sketch artist for Elliot Ness and the Untouchables.
Oh,
Anyway, I helped him to publish a newsletter for the Cleveland Ufology Project, as well as a series of articles on UFOs in the Bedford Times Register, and began a career in journalism from there. Um, Published my own Flying Saucer magazine with a friend, Alan Weston, and it was they even wrote about it in the National Enquirer.
hmm.
And we got thousands of contacts from all over the world and began to exchange information about UFOs, and to actually go out and investigate cases and write about them, and even travel around the United States and up to Canada. Um, uh, I had a 1964 Pontiac GTO sky blue convertible.
Oh, wow.
I got to travel around, and it was very exciting, very cool, and that's how it all began.
That's how it starts for a lot of people who have a sighting. Then they get interested in the subject. And once they go in the rabbit hole, they can't get out.
Oh yeah, it's so fascinating, and it's when you have a realization that you're part of something bigger, even bigger than this world, that you're part. You get a sense immediately that you're part of a galactic community, part
Hmm.
of a universal community, that you're more than a citizen of the United States or of the world, but you're an integral part of the bigger picture of the universe itself. So this is the thrill of it, and I don't believe that anybody that has a UFO experience, um, that it was just an accident. That you just happen to
Right.
be in the right place at the right time. I believe that was the spark. That was the spark that ignited your consciousness, and propelled you um, into a preparation for integration into a larger galactic community, whether in this life or in the next one to come. So if your next if you have this interest in paranormal subjects and ufology and so forth, and you're learning all you can, this is a great preparation for your transition to the next level of consciousness and existence, maybe on the astral plane or even on another planet, a more advanced civilization on the material plane.
Well, you mentioned Venus. Can we talk about the planet for just a minute? You said that in one of your books discussing about the heavy cloud layer over the planet. Are people or Venusians living on the surface of the planet or inside of it?
Okay, well, Venus, like the Earth, actually exists at many different densities or dimensional levels.
Hmm.
So inside the planet, there are physical material beings, that are more highly evolved than we are. They they arrived countless millennia ago from a planet called Norca in the Tau Ceti system, and they had to leave their world because there was approaching a uh, Neptunian-sized planet, like a rogue
Oh,
planet, was entering their solar system, and they had to build a fleet of space arcs to find a new home. And their scientists uh, projected that life could exist on Venus, Earth, and Mars, and so that they set out on an interstellar voyage, and so they've been there ever since. Now, in the history of Venus, there was a there was a um, an ascension that took place where some went to a much higher level, to what we would call the astral plane, and so they are uh, now like in a kind of angelic being, and on the physical, uh, the reason that the Venusians had to go underground is because about 65 million years ago or so, there was a bombardment of all the planets in our solar system, um, and and they had to go underground in order to survive. So their civilization continues to thrive there.
now, did you get your information from Venusians directly?
Oh yeah, oh yes, from some that I've met, and others that have left records and archives.
Okay. When did you first meet a person who was non-human?
Well, I had met some that uh, that that were extraterrestrials initially, but I didn't know until later. But the actual first meeting of with one that I knew for sure was an extraterrestrial, um, in an encounter surrounded by other paranormal phenomena, was at Mount Shasta in 1987. And in this case, I had a UFO group called Outer Space International Research and Investigations Society, OSIRIS. And we had 14 chapters worldwide and published the New Millennial Star. That was 7,500 copies every month.
Oh my.
And it was very, very big thing. They even had it at for sale there at the Little Alien
Oh
in
yeah.
in Rachel, Nevada. I took
Mm-hmm.
people for tours up there, and I was headquartered in Hilmar, California, and I took people up to Mount Shasta and different places. But anyway, the group in Salt Lake City wanted to go up on one of these excursions, so we went with Reverend Clayton Parker from Murray, Utah, and we went on an expedition to Mount Shasta. And he said that we would meet an ascended master up there. So we got to the parking lot there, and he was 87 years old at that time, and he couldn't go up there by himself. So he told us to just follow the trail up there, and we uh, we'd meet an ascended master, and so we did, and there was 8 of us all together, and we got up there, and we got above the tree line and we went to a brook coming out of this rock, an outcropping of rocks. They call it Panther Meadow, is what I learned later. And then a woman appeared, a teenage. She seemed like she was a teenager, and she had a white jumpsuit with gold braid, and just appeared in a column of light and like a twinkling light, and with gold sparkles in it. It was very strange. And she told us not to be afraid, and introduced herself as Lady Ankara, and from a planet called Balaton, which is a super Earth, about 3 times the size of the Earth, in the Sirius star sector. And she said she was a Venusian space explorer, and they had a colony there. And she said we were standing in the middle of a bilocation signal that connects a portal between Balaton and Mount Shasta. Mm-hmm. And that if we looked up at the side of the mountain there, the tree line, that we'd be able to see the indigenous beings of Balaton that open and close and regulate the stargates, these large mantid beings, anywhere from 5 to 15 feet. And they were walking up and down the side of the mountain. Then she said she would answer our questions about flying saucers, and she did. And we were there for about 3 hours. And then she said the portal was going to close, and she had to go. So Kay Studstrup, whose house we would meet at in Salt Lake City, or back in Murray, Utah, asked if she could take a picture of all of us together with Lady Ankara, and she said it would be okay. And so we were very excited. We all gathered around her, and she took the picture. This is before digital photographs or anything. So we had to wait until we got back to Salt Lake City, and we took it to a 1-hour photo mat, and we were waiting around in the parking lot for the picture to be developed. And then when it came out, it got developed, we were all around in the circle for sure. You could see the rest of Mount Shasta, but she wasn't anywhere in the picture.
And I had a feeling that was going to happen.
And so we asked Clayton, well, what's up with that? How come we can't see her? And he said it's like that. The best way he could describe it is it's like when you're looking at an electric fan that's turned on, mm-hmm. and the blades are solid. They're thick, but they're moving so fast that you could actually see right through them. And so he said that's what her molecular structure is doing, because she's visiting the Earth from a much lighter density, where the molecular structure is always moving faster. So
yeah,
like she's coming from a quantum space,
super high vibration being,
right, and trying to condense enough so that at least she could present herself to us, so that she looks other than just like a ghost. So
so you're up there with a group of people. Was everyone in the group able to see her?
Yes, everybody was able to see her and to touch her, and so it was very very moving experience, and that was my first encounter with knowing encounter with an extraterrestrial being. And I should say that that to everyone out there, that you've probably been in contact. If you haven't been already, you've probably been in contact with extraterrestrials. If you've seen UFOs and you've experienced a lot of synchronicities and suddenly have an interest in all kinds of paranormal phenomena and that, because I believe that you're among a group that's selected for a longitudinal study by the ETs, because you're eventually going to be contacted. I do believe that, and it does affirm that in the Bible. In Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2, it says to always be kind to one another, for know ye not that ye entertain angels unawares.
Mm-hmm.
And these beings are really angelic, I have to say that. And in the Bible and also in other holy books, when these beings appear, that they take on the appearance of human beings, so they could blend in with us, and so they have a form of physicality, but they have they essentially have, like, in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, it talks about bodies celestial and bodies terrestrial. And so that there's a big difference between them. They look similar, but they're constituted very much differently.
Exactly. Uh, this group of people that you were with on Mount Shasta, have you kept in touch with them?
Yes, I had kept in touch. I had kept in touch with some of them.
And are they also continuing to have experiences as you are?
Oh, yes, they've all had experiences. In fact, um, the leader of the group that led us there, he was he passed away in 1997, but he would be in contact all the time. He wrote a book himself called "Thy Will Be Done" by Clayton Parker. It's very hard to find it. It was self published, but
Mm-hmm.
he grew up. He was a friend of a spiritual writer. Her name was Annalise Guerin, and she wrote these books about um, going into heaven through the front door. In other words, not physically dying, but being caught up. And you know how in the Bible it talks about Enoch. He he
Mm-hmm.
walked with God, and then he was no more. And then the city of Enoch, and um, Elijah and others being caught up into to heaven. And then we know that many people just disappear every year. They say in the United States, like 230,000 people disappear, and some of them, those are crimes. But I believe there's a very small minority that are actually translated, is
Mm-hmm.
what the word is for that they're caught up into outer space. And when you study the area around Mount Shasta and you read the newspapers there, in the what they call the morgue, where they have all the back issues of the newspapers,
Mm-hmm.
there in Paradise, California, and other places that are known for this kind of thing. People are just regular people that are into paranormal events and ufology, and that from time to time they literally disappear, and the last they're seen is at these UFO hotspots like Mount Shasta.
Interesting. And there have been a lot of disappearing people lately that have been in the news, and I suspect something very strange is going on with that. But we are up on a break, so we're going to be back in just a couple of minutes. Hang with me. We're talking with Dr. Raymond Keller tonight.
The conversation around UFOs has never been more serious or more complicated. On Saturday, March the 28th, from noon to 5 p.m. Eastern, the Unexplained Network presents UFO Audit, a digital conference taking a hard look at the current state of the UFO movement, featuring Micah Hanks, John Burroughs, Chiago Tchetti, and David Marler. 4 respected voices. No hype. Just real analysis. This is a free virtual event, so come be a part of the discussion and register now at theunexplainednetwork.com. That's theunexplainednetwork.com. The paranormal field is changing, and now, more than ever, it's time for professionals to lead the way. Join the Oz Professional Paranormal Investigators Association, a global network of serious investigators dedicated to raising the standard of real paranormal research. Access professional certifications, advanced training, and courses exploring true investigation, psychic phenomena. If you're a real paranormal investigator, be a part of the group defining the future. Join today. Visit ozinstitute.org. That's ozinstitute.org. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to research a haunted house can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unexmedia.com or amazon.com.
We are back. I'm Margie Kay. This is Unex News, and we are with Dr. Raymond Keller this evening, talking about his latest book now, The Autobiography of a Venusian. This is book 1, Child of the Stars. When did you finish this book, Dr. Keller?
I finished the book a couple months ago, and it was taking like 2.5 years, and I would write a few pages every single day. And it's quite an extensive effort because I have so much experience in ufology and dealing with ufologists and extraterrestrial events and so forth over a whole lifetime and spanning the globe and so forth. And so it actually came out to like 735 pages when I finished it.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than publish it as one book because it would be just too big, then Anya Schaefer at Discus Publishing decided that it would be good to have 4 volumes, and then to space those out a couple months apart. And so they'll all have the cover is the color of Venus, is the copper color.
Oh.
And then they have a gold different gold seal on each one. The first one has the Tibetan wheel of life, and then others have other symbols representative of Venusians and extraterrestrials.
Wow. So, what is the overall theme of this book?
This is the theme covering my youth and how I got into reporting. Was the editor of my school newspaper, then publisher of the Flying Saucer Report, working for my local newspaper, writing a series of articles about UFOs. And then I had many opportunities that I followed through on attending UFO conferences, meeting contactees, meeting ufologists, interviewing them. We interviewed Major Hector Quintanilla Jr. of Air Force Project Blue Book, uh, Dr. J. Allen Hynek. We even the Apollo 8 astronauts at the Cleveland City Club, and learned so many things about what was really going on about uh, UFOs, and it's quite a revelation. We even were the first in with Earl J. Neff to uncover a textbook of the U.S. Air Force Academy, um, detailing the existence of extraterrestrial life on Earth going back 50,000 years, introductory space science, and it was just really amazing. I got to meet Leo Sprinkle, Gabriel Green, um, of Amalgamated Flying Saucer Clubs of America. I worked with Jean Duplantier of Canada's Saucer Space and Science, Willowdale, Ontario, and uh, exchange publications with, um, as far as UFO groups in Germany, like UFO Nachrichten, and in Yugoslavia, and the British Isles, Australia, UFO Research Queensland, and got to know all these people and their different theories, and it's just really amazing. And that so this book details my youth growing up in Cleveland and sometimes in Southern California, and until I went into the United States Navy in the summer of 1972.
While you were in the Navy, did you happen to have any encounters?
Well, I had a very unusual event take place there. I was stationed at Miramar Naval Air Station, just north of San Diego, and was the editor of the Jet Journal newspaper, the base newspaper. And we had an incident that Bob Spearing and Alan Greenfield had some information about, and so I shed some light on what was really going on in. I think it's in this book as well, and it wasn't an extraterrestrial spacecraft, but it was the landing at the base of what we would call an IFO, and it
Mhm.
back then it was um, like a secret project. It was had one of those It was a plane equipped with a very large radar dome, and it just landed there, and was just refueling there, and but everybody all over Southern California was reporting this UFO and people on the base, and so they just said to just not say anything, pretend it didn't happen. But but now we all know about these planes because they're seen everywhere. They've been around since 1941 with the radomes, um, but they were still, that was the time in the Vietnam War was going on, so
Mhm.
that was still classified back then.
What are your thoughts on the triangular black triangles? Uh, Half of the community thinks they are government, and the other half thinks they're UFOs. What do you think?
I think that well, UFOs come in all shapes and configurations, but the triangular objects are usually seen in the vicinity of strategic bases and airfields.
Mhm.
So I think that perhaps they are. Uh, Most of them are probably military in some way or another.
That's what I think too. Okay, goodness gracious.
Because I do believe we have the back engineering technology to uh,
Yeah,
to fabricate some of the technology to manufacture some of it, not all of it, because um, you know some we're still working on it. I do believe that, but we know as far back as I have documents from as far back as the 1950s of projects uh, uh, in Canada and the United States where they were manufacturing flying saucers
yeah.
and what they call the G ships. And my seventh book is uh, Flying Saucers from Venus They Come, and it has photographs and actual documentation regarding the manufacture of anti-gravity ships and actual pictures of them from the 50s and articles from Scientific American and from Gravity Research Institute and from scientists who won prizes in gravity research that later went on to work with the government.
If they had that kind of technology in the 1950s, imagine what they have now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, you mentioned earlier that you interviewed the Apollo 8 astronauts. Did they tell you anything particularly interesting?
Yes, they did. They did mention that they had seen anomalies on the moon, but they couldn't really talk about it. But I did learn that at the Corralitos Lunar Observation Facility in New Mexico, that they picked the region around the Sea of Tranquility back in 1966 for the moon landing in 1969 because these unusual electronic signals were being received and high bursts of radiation and red lights around the Aristarchus crater, which is just to the north of the Sea of Tranquility. And the Apollo 8 astronauts mentioned that they did see these strange lights and so forth over the uh, Aristarchus crater. And and then and then as I also found out about, some unusual things about the moon is, of course, when the Chinese probe went to the backside of the moon recently, they photographed what looked to be uh, a partially concealed bunker. They took a picture of it, and I have photos from the 1959 Ranger probe sent by the United States to orbit the moon, and it shows dome cities all on the backside of the moon. And one of my books is Lady Columba, Venus Revelations, and Annabelle Krebs, i.e., Lady Columba. She she did drawings of a moon base called Clarion on the far side of the moon. That and she made these in 1957, and they look surprisingly like the photograph taken by the Ranger probe. And then we also have the fact that the astronauts, while they're on the moon, report observing meteorites burning up as they approached the moon. And if the moon is supposedly airless and
Right.
in a vacuum, how are they going to see a meteor burning up in over the moon
It
coming in?
makes you wonder what we learned in science class about our planets. How hot is Venus? Uh, how
Right.
does Mars have an atmosphere? Does the moon have an atmosphere? Yeah, all this stuff is kind of leaking out now.
Oh yeah, and I mean it's coming in like gangbusters now because we we know now that everything that Howard Menger and George Adamski and all these contactees were saying it is true because they're being vindicated by the recent findings in space. For example, uh, a few years ago they discovered phosphine molecules in the Venusian atmosphere, and these can only be produced by living organisms. And we also know that we also know from the experiments with at private institutions, universities, and so forth, with uh, high weather balloons, going beyond going to the edge of the atmospheric envelope of the Earth, where they can get clear observations, like Dr. Strong and then at Hopkins University and so forth. They found that there's water vapor in the Venusian atmosphere, that the atmospheric layer is bifurcated. We know from the Venera probes that that the density of the atmosphere of Venus varies, just like it does on the Earth, and also that the temperature varies, and that the heat that was measured is electrical heat in the ionosphere. And if
So
like
it's not the planet's heat,
no,
temperature,
and
right?
if you measure the ionosphere of the Earth, the electrical heat is like 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So, and then
Right.
on the moon, they've discovered lakes, uh,
Oh,
frozen
no kidding.
frozen lakes, and then there's a high concentration of oxygen in the regolith, or the kind of the lunar dust, the lunar soil. So there's just so much, and then photographs of strange structures, and then on Mars they photograph what looked like a statue of a woman, and then there's another photograph that shows a bunker similar to the one that the Chinese photographed on the backside of the moon. And there's a region on Venus called the Cleopatra Plateau, and they photographed like an H structure, like an H block structure there, and and
See that?
and like river channels and different things, and even snow toward the north polar region of Venus. And then the Russian Venera probes, they said that well, our scientists on Earth were saying that the pressure on Venus would be too great, that it would be 1,000 equivalent, or I mean, equivalent to like 100 atmospheres, and that everything would be dark and distorted. Yet when the Russian 13 and 14 Venera probes landed on Venus, they took pictures, and it looked like just a flat desert scene in New Mexico on a clear day, and they could see so far that it could see like 12 miles off in the distance in two different mountain ranges. So it was, it's not anything like you'd think what they tell you, because, well, these scientists, they get grants from the government to do research. And I guess the money tap is going to be turned off if they don't say what their masters want them to say.
There
So,
is that.
and
Yeah.
so it's not just Venus, it's the moon, Mars, Saturn, all the other planets,
Mm.
and all the anomalies. There's connection with the solar wind in a magnetic reconnection with the North Pole of all the planets. So when you look at Mars, it has polar caps like the Earth. Jupiter has a huge magnetic field that's distortion like a big crown. And then Saturn has, at the North Pole of Saturn, there's this weird perfect pentagonal shape over the North Pole of the planet. And there's just so many things. And then the planet, or the moon of Titan, the moon Titan of Saturn, which is almost as big as the planet Mars, and it has an atmosphere um, very similar to the Earth. That if we were there, we could breathe it. And they photograph lakes and everything there. And there's just too much out there to. And then the Martian meteor that was. During when Clinton was president, they had the conference where they unveiled the meteor from Mars, and it had or the meteorite, and it had some kind of cells inside of it. So they're just not. And then you didn't hear any more about it after that. And
Right.
there's just
Right.
so much stuff like this out there. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm interested in. And
Hmm.
and so I write about it in my books, and expand on it. And I research it. I get journals from Eastern Europe and Russia and different places, and UFO contacts from around the world, and contacts with extraterrestrials. And I present it in all my books.
Well, I must say, you are a very well researched author, as I am trying to get through Cosmic Ray's excellent Venus adventure right now. um, it is not, you're not going to read it very quickly, folks. You're going to have to read a little bit, put it down, come back to it. It's not one of those weekend reads.
And one
Um,
one thing I have to say about the Cosmic Ray's excellent Venus adventure, that was written 2 years before the big fire in in Paradise, California. There's a whole chapter in there called Paradise, and it's all about the UFO connections to the city. And uh, and so I and Christina Duran, a Native American UFO researcher, and uh, also paranormal researcher into Bigfoot and everything. We collected all this information. I even went out, was invited by the city of Paradise to their library there to do a presentation on my findings about the connections to Venus and the early contactees, Lee Crandall and others uh, who had uh, discovered a lot about Venus there. And then there was Daniel Fry's understanding unit. The first understanding unit was headquartered there, and Daniel Fry was an engineer at the White Sands Proving Ground. In July 4th, 1949, a flying saucer came down at White Sands, and was remote controlled from somewhere else. It flew him to from New Mexico to New York and back in 15 minutes. And then after that he had all these amazing contacts with
yeah,
extraterrestrials and formed the understanding units that were all over the country. And then they would meet with George Van Tassel at the Giant Rock conventions.
yeah.
And that's what my book um, Cosmic Ray's excellent Venus adventure is all about. And even more of that kind of information is in this book and the future um, soon to be published book 2, 3, and 4.
We just have a few more minutes left, but I've got to ask you the big question, because some of us who are remote viewers are getting some information from a particular Venusian, uh, that the timeline for disclosure has been moved up. What information are you getting about that?
Oh, it's definitely moved up because they have to respond to circumstances on the ground here on Earth. And
Mhm.
of course, with all the turmoil in the world, in the world today, this is a necessity. And I do believe that that in that the United States of America plays an important role in destiny and the future of the world. Of course, we're the first nation to emerge into the atomic age and the space age. And as we approach our 250th anniversary, I believe that we're going to see some exciting events and a show by the extraterrestrials at Mount Shasta, at Sedona, Arizona, and in the Grand Tetons.
All right. Look forward to that. You have some upcoming speaking engagements.
Oh yes, I have
That,
some speaking engagements coming up on the 11th of April at Youngwood, Pennsylvania, near Greensburg area. There's going to be a UFO conference. We're going to have a salute to my late co-author of my UFO books, Fred Saluga, an honorarium for him in recognition of his life work. He was the MUFON state director for West Virginia, and the assistant state MUFON director for Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
And so if you're in the area, come to you're welcome to come to that. And then in May, I'll be at the Ultimate UFO Disclosure Conference 2.0 in Kirchheim, Germany. And
Okay. I'll tell
that
you
will
what, we're running out of time, Dr. Ray, and we will post this information on our website. So if anybody's interested, just go to our YouTube channel or our Rumble channel, and you will see that, or on our website. And I just want to thank you so much for being with us this evening and sharing some more great stories. I could talk to you for 10 hours straight.
well, thank you, Margie. I feel the same. That it's always a pleasure to speak with you and to your ever expanding audience in numbers and consciousness.
Thank you so much, and that is true, and I appreciate it. Okay, well, hang with me, don't leave yet, we're just gonna take you down. Well, another very, very interesting show. Dr. Keller is amazing. I will post his conference information coming up because you're going to want to see him. He's in multiple places, and including June 20th, he will be a speaker for our Conscious Contact conference that we're doing virtually here on the Unexplained Network. So check out our website, just unexplainednetwork.com or theunexplainednetwork.com or unxnetwork.com. They all lead to the same place, and you can go there. In the meantime, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.